Welcome to another episode of Spritz of Wisdom. This is actually going to be the season finale of the first season of this brand new format, because for the past 7 months, I've been recording episodes pretty much every week, give or take a few exceptions. But I think it's always nice to pause podcasts and actually have a moment of stillness, a chance to maybe catch up on old episodes, and also a chance for me to iterate what I have been creating here to come back in September with more improvements and more ways that I can bring value to you through this podcast series. So let's begin. As we do every time with my sip of the week, these are my highs and lows of the previous 7 days living here in the south of Italy. So big high, first of all. You can probably notice I'm in a t-shirt. Finally, summer has arrived. It's been really hit and miss for the last couple of weeks. But now the weather is here. It's hot, it's sunny, it's glorious. We're starting to eat dinners outside. It's amazing. I'm so happy. I literally come alive at this time of year. But it's also a time of year here in Italy, especially where things start to slow down. And this is another reason why I've decided to pause my podcast over the summer and come back with a brand new season in September. Because as you are very well rehearsed in, I'm sure, August and pretty much summer in Italy moves slower than maybe it does in other countries. You know, places shut down. A lot of Italians are on holiday. And so it's a different kind of energy and vibe. And I really want to streamline what I'm doing this summer to kind of match the energy of what's going on around me so that I can enjoy my summer, first and foremost. But secondly, I can actually rebuild my creativity, because the problem is when you are constantly working and you're doing all the things that you think you should be doing, often your creativity is sacrificed because you are just on that hamster wheel of churning stuff out, making sure you're doing things. And I want to tap back into that creativity. And so I decided that pausing my podcast and kind of having seasons again, like I did when this podcast was Lessons from the Boot, was a really, really good idea. So that has been a really nice reflection this week. I will say that we've been talking in our community a lot about how August feels different and how for most of us, it can actually feel quite challenging as a month for lots of reasons. You know, like it's very hot. There are lots of people. Everything's really expensive. Everything closes, or things that you might need as a resident, not so much as a tourist. So it's interesting. It's an interesting vibe in August, absolutely. Now, what are the highs of the past week? Well, my hair is finally looking exactly how I wanted it to look, but it has taken a year for that process. And this has actually inspired today's podcast episode. So we're going to get into the full pour in a moment. But finally, perseverance, patience has led me to the point where I'm super happy with my hair. I had it done yesterday and I was like, yes, finally, after 12 months, we are here. So that has been a really nice high. What other highs of the past week? Festival season is in full swing. So now as we approach, into the summer, there are lots more festivals, food festivals, regional festivals. I want to try to go to as many as I can this year, and obviously film them over on my YouTube channel as well. So that's going to be really nice. But yeah, it's really beautiful. Now, in terms of lows of the past week, I would say it's not so much a low because it's going to become a high. I always try to switch this. But I've noticed that my YouTube channel needs a bit of TLC, shall we say. Recent videos have just not been performing. The engagement is not what it was. And I feel like there's a few reasons why. Like my channel runs in seasons, but also I've reduced my content a lot on my YouTube channel in this past year. I used to do 2 long form videos a week and, a podcast shorts. It was just all too much. But it's got me reflecting on a concept that I'm going to talk about in this Sunday's YouTube video, actually, in that there is a trap that you can very, very easily fall into here in Italy. And my YouTube channel has been evidence of that. So if you're curious, stay tuned for Sunday's video. Now, let's get into the full pour of today's episode, because like I say, today's episode is actually inspired by my hair journey that I've been on for the past 12 months. So when we moved back to the Salerno province from Palermo, I had black hair. It was like raven black. And it was a look I'd had for many years, I'll be honest. But it's also a look that wasn't starting to sit well with me anymore. I looked washed out. I'd been really stressed in Palermo. So the black hair just kind of emphasized that aspect of it. But when I came here, I was like, okay, I want to go a bit lighter. And originally I was thinking to go to a brown shade. And then gradually I was like, no, let's go lighter. Let's do it. And I've been on a journey over the past 12 months trying to go from black hair to the color that you can see today. And it has meant that there have been some ups and downs. I've had orange hair at points. I've dealt with brassy roots. I've dealt with like this mix of colors in my hair. I've had it all really, but eventually I've arrived at the point where my hair looks like this and I'm super happy because this is the analogy of Italy. You know, people move to Italy and expect their life to be like a linear progression. Like, you know, they're going to adapt, they're going to learn the language, they're going to make friends. It's a great experience. But life here doesn't always work in that linear way. Often there are ups and downs, things that you didn't anticipate, changes to your plans. You're going to have people's opinions along the way as well about what you're doing, the progress you're making, the life you're leading. The journey here in Italy is one that takes time, and you're going to be experimenting. You're going to be seeing what works and what doesn't. Much the same as we have with my hairdresser and I over the past year, really experimented with, okay, you know, let's change this part of your hair color to avoid this brassiness. Let's do this, let's do that. And it's been an iteration the whole year to arrive at this point. And that's exactly how your life in Italy will be. I'm very real because I think that people make living in Italy sometimes seem easier than it really is. Now, in some cases, it can be easy to live here, especially if you move from another EU country. You don't have as many hurdles to jump through. But if you come from outside of the EU and you move to Italy, you do have a lot more hurdles to jump through. There may be some stark differences in the way that you live your life here compared to how you lived it before. And so I just think it's really important to recognize that and to understand that it's okay if your journey doesn't resemble the one that you thought it would. In fact, it's almost really beautiful because along the way, you're always learning something. Now, this year, I have been living in Italy for 8 years, and I've been reflecting on some of my previous videos in this past week where I was like giving you lessons every year that I've been living here. And I'll be doing the same again this year because I think every year you learn more things on top of what you knew before. But essentially, Italy is a beautiful country, but your journey here is going to be ever evolving. I never feel like you have reached a point of settlement because I think there's always something new that you can be learning or developing or growing. And that's really the concept that I've been leaning into this past week. And it's also something that I was reminded of from my hair journey of the past year about how nothing is ever really smooth sailing at points, but usually it's always worth it in the end. You know, I come back to the question I spoke about in a couple of podcasts ago where I said, you know, is the challenge greater than the reward? Well, for me, going to the hairdressers every month, working on different iterations of my hair, some months being left feeling, my God, my hair looks rubbish. Other months being like, okay, piano, we're getting there. For me, it was worth it because I had hope and vision that we would arrive at the outcome that we're at now. It's the same with moving to Italy, you know, like it's going to be challenging. There are going to be many things that leave you questioning your decision, but you've always got to lean into the outcome and the vision. And it's so important to have a vision, right? I had an amazing conversation as part of my community with Lisa and Michael from Batsa last week. And they were talking about vision, like their whole life that they have built has been based on a vision. And it is so important that you have that. You know, people come here sometimes on a bit of a win and a prayer and they're like, you know, let's just see what happens. And it's great to have this kind of spontaneity. Absolutely. But there also needs to be some kind of a vision wrapped into that as well. Like you want to spontaneously move to Italy. How do you want your life to look here? Like, you know, what are some of the important aspects of life that you want to experience and appreciate? There is an element of a vision in everything that we do, even if it's not mapped out and, you know, precise like a plan. So I feel it's just been a really interesting week for me. I've really learned about the power of the people you surround yourself with as well. I recorded 2 masterclasses last week for my community, and both of them just energized me so much. I had an aperitivo hour call, the second one of the month on Sunday. And again, that just left me feeling super, super energized. And it just got me thinking like, you know, it's not just the journey you go on, but it's who you share that journey with as well. That will really, really impact the kind of life that you have in Italy and the way that you approach things. So my chin for you this week in my season finale is I really want you to understand that your process of moving to, setting up your life in Italy, living in Italy is probably never going to look the same as somebody else's, first and foremost. I don't think there is anyone that I have spoken to in my community when I've been doing these masterclasses who has had like a similar journey. Everybody's journey has been quite unique, and that's the beauty of it. But it's also something really important to remember when you want to fall into comparison as to why your life looks different to others. We all have very different journeys and ways that we start our lives in Italy. I also think it's important to be kinder to yourself. If your plans are not going the way that you thought that they would, if your life is starting to take a different path to how you had expected it to, I really want you to understand that this sometimes is part of the journey. The journey of success in life in general is never just a straight line. It's usually this wiggly mess. There's this messy middle, shall we say, of kind of iterations and things that you're working through and mistakes and learnings and all of the above. And so I think if you can recognize that, it takes the pressure off somewhat when your life isn't following the trajectory that you had thought it would. And then I think finally, it's really important to start to surround yourself with other people who have a similar mindset to you. It matters more than you realize. And these can be people online, they can be people in presence. But it really, really makes a huge difference to be able to speak to people who know what it is that you're going through or have a similar vision or dream for themselves, and get clear on your vision. What do you want your life to look like here in Italy? But understand that your journey there may not be the way that you had expected. And in a way, that's kind of the magic of it all. I will be back with Spritz of Wisdom in September. See you then.